Listen, these are the times we live in, okay? Normally, this footage, everybody be laughing at it, but this is this is supposedly video evidence from an alien interrogation program. I have no idea what's going on, okay? I'm as lost as you guys, but let's watch it together and get even more lost
Called. It's
along
not
the way.
telepathy. It's actually called thought projection. And the first one worked for TRW, and I said, well, this is a hoax. He wasn't even in the military. Sean David Morton, who was in the office of the production company, who first got the call from Victor saying, I've got this VHS tape of an alien, said, no, no, no. TRW is like hand in hand with the government. They do every kind of secret project and whatnot. I said, wow. The next name was a rear admiral, um, who reported to the Joint Chiefs, was in the Oval Office. I've proven this, and I'll get back to that man. The next one was a captain in naval intelligence. I look him up on Wikipedia. He retired a vice admiral. I said, "Well, this is a hoax." And my one investigator said, "John, he was a captain of a Navy intelligence in 1991. He retired. The list is from 1991 when this thought projection interview was first made, which was April of 1991. He said they're giving you a list of the people of the in that room and their rank at that time. I mean, I was blown away. I'm like, you're right. And now he was vice admiral. Clayton, I emailed this man, and we emailed each other back 3 or 4 times, and we had such a relationship. I was going to fly to Virginia to ask him to play golf and go out to dinner. And he said, "Well, before you come out, what is your documentary about?" And I'm like, "Look, I'm a champion of the military. I've had relatives in the military. With along with Senator Mark Kirk, stopped the closure of the North Chicago VA in northern Chicago. I am pro-military." I said, "But look, I'm going to send you a list. I'm going to send you a report that's very disconcerting. Bear with me. Your name's on it."
Now, this isn't
Ah,
scientific, but I did a poll around New York.
I sent him the report, the time and date, what type of alien this was, his name there, and he ghosted me. And Clayton, in 2022, when you ghost somebody electronically, doesn't that say speak volumes? He didn't call back and say I was crazy, you're nuts, laugh at me. That's not me. That never happened. And I've had military people say, look, men and women in the military are honorable. They're not going to lie to you. They just won't talk to you anymore. So they don't lie to you. And that really had me fall off my chair. Like, this guy, we were going to go play golf, and now, I am, I am, I'm alienated from his life. I had Dr. Sala email him too. Never laughed at Dr. Sala. Didn't call Dr. Sala crazy. Just said I'm not interested in doing any interviews about anything with my military career.
Wow.
And the list goes on. And let me get to the two doctors, the two medics that are you will see, folks, on either side of the alien. The doctor on the alien's right, our left, died in California. I called. Please listen to me, folks. This is such crucial information. I call his second wife, his widow. I'm going to say her name is Kim, but it was a short name. It's kind of hard telling somebody's widow, was your husband involved in alien, autopsies or alien interrogation or anything to do with aliens, because he was a doctor. And I told her my story very quickly, and she paused. Again, another person that didn't laugh, didn't hang up the phone. She said, John, that's really interesting. She said, For the time that I was married to him, he never ever spoke about his time in the U.S. Army Medical Corps. I never told her U.S. Army Medical Corps, but that was on the report of what his designation was. And which I thought she is correlating this report. She said all of our friend groups, they're from Vietnam, World War II, Korea. They all have funny stories about boot camp, or on assignment other than non-combat related information. They all have funny stories, and my husband ever never spoke about his time in the U.S. Army Medical Corps, not even to me. And she said, John, your phone call just completely turns the light bulb on and totally makes sense to me now why my husband never spoke about his time in the US Army.
Hmm.
So I'm like, what is going on here? Now I Google the other doctor's name. He's practicing medicine still in Connecticut. And at the time, he worked for the VA in 91, and we see this creature having some sort of respiratory coughing fit. Folks, pay attention to the mouth. Opens and closes instantaneously. Listen to me on this. He he at the time of 1991, this creature's having a respiratory problem. This doctor worked for the VA. What did he do and specialize in 1991? He was a pulmonologist. So obviously they brought this man in to S2 Alpha. That's the official designation of the underground facility where the alien retention interrogation program happens to study this creature that he's having a respiratory problem. Let's bring in an expert, and who in the VA is a pulmonologist, and so on and so forth. He is not that anymore. He is in a different field of medicine. But I called his office. And Leslie Keene of the New York Times, who I presented this story to her and Ralph Blumenthal. Leslie was even contemplating making an appointment and going to visit. And once she got him in the room, but that never maturated, and whatever. But and then his office just refused to take my calls because I wanted to be honest. I'm working on a documentary, and he must have had some idea what was going on, or was either contacted by someone at the Pentagon. Look, we got a guy. He's going around. He's asking questions, and you might get a phone call. And I sat on this for like 3 or 4 months, and I
Man, this could be fake, but it like I would expect to have a fixed camera in an interrogation room, just like the camera vantage point that we're seeing. There's human hands obviously involved in the making of this. Um, Man, I don't know. It's crazy. It could be crazy. I don't know.
I didn't know what else to do. I showed Dr. Sala,
Wow.
and then I showed Donald Schmidt, who was J.L. Hynek assistant in Chicago, and he's the first person I showed it to. He's the Roswell expert, and he was flipping the pages in a restaurant in Wisconsin with his mouth open, and he basically said, if you've got this wrong, nothing changes. If you're right about this list, this changes everything. I said, Mr. Doe, I finally got a hold of me. Very nice man to me, very personable. Hi, Richard. My name is John Stewart. Do you know anything about the Victor film? Yes, I do. I know some things about it. I'm like, wow. Okay. Deep breath. Was it real? Yes, it was real. I'm like, real meaning it showed an actual off-planet extraterrestrial alien being. Yes. And I said, okay, do you know who Victor is? He said, no. Uh, but there was a very disgruntled bunch of people down in S2 and in S4, the other facility. And these disgruntled employees, Victor being one of them, help remove the tape. And I will tell everyone here, Victor, who kind of said he removed the tape, didn't. It was simply taken out of the S2 facility by the Air Force cameraman, and two copies were made at the Area 51 Groom Lake Photo Lab. And the second copy, the 3-minute film, was smuggled out in a GSA burn bag. That's how it left. No, nothing's, there was no kind of like smuggling like a mule over the American border with drugs. And I mean, it was let out almost like an Ocean's 11. And Doty said that it was not filmed in S4. There are no alien housing there. The alien housing is in S2 Alpha. And I'm like, what's S2 Alpha? She sent me a satellite photo of it and said that's what it is. It's called the Alien Retention Program. This being was brought in on a part of Project Pounce. Uh, Doty's like, I don't know the provenance of the being, but I think it was from the Kalahari crash where two beings were recovered. And he said, but the entire project has been moved to Dugway Proving Grounds in Utah, where they have now a huge super secret underground facility. S2, S3, S4 are still in kind of a caretaker status, but the alien program whether that be the retention, the interrogation, the biological reverse engineering of craft, that all is now taking place at Michael's Airfield at the Dugway Proving Grounds. And I find an email on the internet from 1999 of the project manager. His name was Major Thomas Mack, beloved. It says Richard Doty was our counterintelligence agent for Project Majestic, and that was the name of this project. Here's the bombshell: the name of the project for this whole thing since
Majestic 12.
1947 was the Majestic program, and the program to interview the beings in S2 was called Project Aquarius, which was basically all things about aliens in contact with human beings. And that is from the email, and that is also from Richard Doty's mouth, who is verified as the counterintelligence agent, who is in his 70s and wants to tell the story, the truth of what's going on and what the government is covering up.
I
What
wanted
the
to ask
hell?
you about the New York Times piece of this. So you brought this to the New York Times. You brought this to Leslie Kean. You brought this to Ralph Blumenthal, who, of course, write for the New York Times and publish reports in the New York Times. Famously, their big bombshell report a number of years ago about the USS Nimitz. And you brought this to them. What happened when you brought this to the New York Times?
For asking me that, because I was kind of sworn to secrecy by them until the stories came out, and they are out. And I contacted Ralph Blumenthal. I said, I have to do this in person. I have to show you my investigation. And I flew to Midtown Manhattan. We met at the Hilton in Midtown August of last year, and we sat there for 5 6 hours. I debriefed them basically. They were kind of astonished that I was old school journalism, getting out of my car, knocking on doors, putting notes on people's cars, and and uh, we had lunch, and they said, "Look, we totally believe you. Your investigation is thorough, it's vetted, it's sourced, but there's no way the New York Times is going to run this story. I mean, you've got a film and a photo of an actual extraterrestrial." And Ralph and Leslie both said, if we could get, or you could get, a credentialed inside military intelligence official to come forward, which I'm like, that's never going to happen. To my shock, it did. We could possibly take this to the New York Times and run this story. If you had somebody come forward saying that film's real and the whole alien retention interview program is real. David Grush, the story breaks on News Nation. I mean, my family, my wife were like, they're like, John, you're going to be in the New York Times. This is what Leslie and Ralph have been telling you. This is what you needed. You have it now. And I don't know what's going on.
But you've heard nothing
it's
from them. And to be clear, they're not staff writers of the New York Times. They are,
no.
yeah. So this isn't
No.
specifically
And
the
I
New
asked her. I
York
said,
Times.
Leslie,
Yeah.
yeah. And I asked her. I said, well, does this move my story now to the forefront? We have what you said I needed. And I'll talk to Ralph, and Ralph, I'll talk to Leslie. I'm not throwing them under the bus. They're lovely people. I like them. I mean, Ralph, in 5 hours, Ralph Blumenthal became like my de facto uncle. That's how, what a genuine soul he is. And I love Leslie, and we email each other, and I just, for the life of me, don't know what's going on. I have checked every single box, you know, and everyone told me, Clayton, 20 years ago, government, Hollywood, ufologist. If you prove who Victor is, you prove the video. And the director and the CEO of this production company said this guy called us out of the blue. He was a government employee. He was retired. He didn't even drive at the time, and produced this VHS tape. I've checked all the boxes. I've got the names. I've got the provenance of it. It's in Stephen Greer's 1 terabyte file that he's also submitted to Congress. So it was submitted twice. I think I'm number 240 on the list where it says UFO researchers, information. I don't know what else to do anymore except, continue to try and break through. Flying to Washington to hand my investigation to Congressman Burchett, whose office was wonderfully kind and nice to me, but to continue to do podcasts. And I need the people's help. I really do, because what David Grush can't tell you, I am willing to tell you today on this podcast. The bombshell, I think, of my entire investigation, the number 27, we found it on a Ronald Reagan briefing about extraterrestrials from 1980. I call back Doty. This is like right out of a movie. Richard, what the hell is the number 27 mean? Doty, not knowing, what I was talking about, said, "Oh, 27 is Yankee White." I'm like, "What's Yankee White?" And he said, "John, that's the security umbrella classification. Listen to me, folks. For anybody that briefs the President of the United States. So if you're watching that film, you better have the Yankee White security clearance to talk to, which would have been George H. Bush at the time. Now, a person has claimed Colin Powell was in that room. I am telling you that Colin Powell's chief intelligence liaison, Admiral Schaefer, he's the only name I've given up because he's dead. He's died already. He was also in that room, and he was direct liaison to the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and I have proof that he was also in the Oval Office. So that is why the designation 27 is on the bottom of that film. Would a production person in a low level production company or a screenwriter even think to put that on the bottom of the film? I mean, it's just ludicrous. It's just, this thing just proves itself over and over and over again.
Hmm. And so
And if you
the
see the mouth of the bean,
yeah.
every FX person is like, I don't know how that opens. You close up on that film and you see that mouth going like this.
Have you been
FX people off camera tell us there's no way in 91. You'd see the metal servo around the mouth as a bulge. This is a slit that's opening and closing. Oh, there's a hand underneath the head of the alien. We have seen it because the flashlight of the medic shines the entire torso of this being. You see the neck is as thin as a wiffle ball bat. How is somebody getting their hand up there? This would have taken 200 to $300,000. We know, again, being the journalist, I found the production budget of Rocket Pictures. Production budget meaning having them put this out as a documentary, and then they did their own alien interview as a B-roll. Um, wasn't even a third of that. I know what they were paid. I know what Victor was paid. There was no money. There was no three, 400,000, 200.
Crazy. I mean, I think we've seen enough. What do you guys think? Do you think this is real? I mean, it's weird that the room is dark. That's throwing me off. But I don't know. The rest of it is I guess it could be legit. I mean, I'm not I don't know what to think anymore. I would love for more information, more official information to come out, but right now we're just waiting and all kinds of crazy shit is coming out unofficially. I don't know if anything is going to be acknowledged. I don't know what's going to happen. But if this proves to be true and they've been successfully lying about this, I want to hear people stop saying that the government cannot hide anything for decades. Because if this is true, they've been hiding a very big secret for a very long time. Anyway, take care. I'll talk to you guys again soon.